A California man is free today. He was free a couple days ago after serving 23 years in prison. He was actually sentenced to life in prison. Get this, for joyriding. Let me give you the story because his name is Kenneth Oliver and he is now 52 years old. He was given this life sentence at 29 years old, and this was all a part of California's pretty strict 3 strikes sentencing law for repeat felons. So here's what happened. Oliver was arrested while a passenger in a stolen vehicle, and he was a passenger in a stolen vehicle, right? And so he pleaded guilty to taking a vehicle without permission. Police also say they found a stolen handgun in his hotel room, and that was just the end of a string of crimes that it began when he was 16. So he was a repeat offender, and he was freed Monday after Los Angeles County prosecutors dropped their objections in the interest of justice, and after the state corrections department expunged his gang affiliation record and paid him $125,000 in a settlement for his time in solitary. Now, I'm gonna get back to that in a second because that's an even scarier part of this story, I think. But you may know voters actually eased our 3 strikes law back in 2012 to allow life sentences only when the 3rd strike is for a serious or violent felony. But Oliver was ineligible for a new sentence at that time because he was found with gang materials, that's what they're calling it. A book he had called Blood in My Eye, and it was completed by a gang co-founder, Black Guerrilla Family co-founder, George Jackson. So he had a book that he notes later that you can actually find in libraries. And because of this book being found in his cell, he was sentenced to 8 years in solitary confinement. And he talks about that here. He says, yeah, he couldn't understand being sent to solitary confinement for possessing a book readily available in most campus libraries, but spent his time studying the law and filing the federal lawsuit that eventually helped lead to his release. And talking about his time in solitary, he says, you're single-celled for most of the time, and every time you leave the cell or are escorted out, you have to strip naked and bend over and cough. He said exercise was 3 hours a day in a 6 by 9 foot dog kennel.
Oh my God.
And now his lawyer points out that his sentence of 50 years to life was much longer than a lot of rapists and murderers get. And it was only not because of the severity of his crime, but because of California's 3 strikes rule at the time. And voters agree that there should be some sort of proportionality to this law. And so voters agreed when they opted to free nearly 3,000 3rd strike inmates, but there's an estimated 200 to 500 qualifying inmates, that are still in prison pretty much just because they cannot afford a legal team to free them.
This is a perfect illustration of what our 2-tier justice system is like. Because you can have 2 people who have committed the exact same crime, and whether it's a low-level crime or a high-level crime, and if you have a wealthy person who has the resources to hire the best attorneys, the outcome of that case is gonna be very different from someone who needs to rely on a public defender.
I agree.
And it's just
completely.
so-
There's nobody on death row who is rich.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, which is why it's so important to have organizations like the Innocence Project, which has used DNA evidence in order to exonerate death row inmates who didn't actually commit the crime that they were convicted of. But this whole 3 strikes policy is yet another example of a very punitive justice system that hasn't really helped anyone. Because if you have someone being thrown in prison because their 3rd crime is, let's say, stealing a slice of pizza, well then you're gonna destroy people's lives, you're gonna waste precious and finite resources to needlessly be incredibly punitive. And this is one of the things that I think people are waking up to. And this is one of the issues that Joe Biden is gonna have to answer to quite a bit as the election season continues to heat up, because he was one of the lawmakers who really pushed through the crime bill. And that crime bill was also very punitive, and it disproportionately impacted people of color, who are in a lot of cases still imprisoned over ridiculous low-level crimes.
Yeah, and I just hope never again that we see something like this, because I do agree that Biden is going to have to answer to this. I just wish that more people would have been willing, regardless what was a part of that, to vote no. So then let him stand alone, so that right now we can be talking about not about the thousands of Black men who were punished like this, because states got this incentive to put more people in jail, but maybe we could be in prison. Maybe we could be talking about more about how Biden pitched this law and everybody said no.
Right.
But we're not, unfortunately.
Right, yes,
You know?
Exactly. Everyone just kind of went along with it.
Yeah.
And one other thing, Killer Mike has a song, I was talking about it with Ida on the main show recently, called Reagan.
Okay.
And it's my favorite Killer Mike song. And he talks about the 13th Amendment. And he also talks about how, look, we might have ended slavery, for instance, but that's what led to this two-tier justice system that we're seeing today. That's what led to the imprisonment of all of these black men that we're seeing today. And I think that's such a great point because we still have slavery in America.
It's still legal under the 13th Amendment in prison.
In prison, yeah. Exactly. And I think that's what Kanye West wanted to draw attention to.
I don't know.
But I don't know. I could never tell. Either way, I'm glad that
I thought it was fashion. Okay, what's he saying now? I don't know. All right.
But the good news is people are waking up to it. For all the heat the millennial generation gets, we know what's going on and we're demanding changes, and I love that. That's a good sign.
I do too.
Thank you for watching this clip from the Damage Report. For more content from the show and access to TYT Network members-only exclusives, go to tyt.com/Brooke. Wait, no, it's tyt.com/John. Go to tyt.com/John to sign up.